I'm George Galloway.
I am Steve Topple.
And together we are Topple Galloway. Every week we come to you with the scintillating repartee, lacerating our enemies, pulling apart the arguments of our foes, or something like that.
Or just have a chat. Yes, this is Topple Galloway Live. Switch off BBC Two, switch off Politics Live. And
It's Politics Live on Brexit.
Yes,
We're up against Joko. The Joker.
Yes.
Yeah, let's do this more.
Yes, exactly. Definitely. Yeah, so switch off the BBC.
Now, we've got lots to talk about.
Yeah.
I thought the Grammys were probably something you should kick off with.
Well, yes, obviously the Grammy Awards happened over the past few days. I don't like
Do you want to explain what they are?
Yeah, it's the industry music awards in America. They're billed as like the biggest music awards going, because obviously they're the American ones, and they're going for decades and decades and decades. I think it's 60-something Grammy Awards now. I take issue obviously because they are essentially the industry giving awards to people who fit the little mould of what the capitalists want music to be, as it were. So it goes to people who don't rock the boat musically, who don't get anything out kind of that's challenging or politically driven. And this year was no exception, but there was a couple of standout issues for me, which as someone who is covering music more and more, which I am doing, really niggled me. Firstly, the fact that Cardi B, have you heard of Cardi B at home? Comment on YouTube if you have. George, I know you know who Cardi B is. I've seen one of her albums over there actually. So you're well versed on Cardi B. Cardi B won the Best Rap Act Award. Now this is the first time a female rapper had won that particular award. It's always gone to men. She is the most abysmal rapper going. She is establishment. She's not got any talent as such.
An establishment rapper sounds like an oxymoron.
But this is the point, and this is the situation we're in. When someone like Cardi B, talentless, when in the past, historically, there have been far better female rappers like Missy Elliott, for example, Da Brat, Queen Latifah, for those of you at home who remember Queen Latifah. And they gave it to her, she doesn't rock the boat at all. The same happened with the Reggae Award. A personal friend of mine who I wrote about last year, a guy called Protégé, hello Protégé, I hope you're watching. He was nominated for the Grammy for that as well. Completely anti-establishment album, really anti-capitalist, really political album. Token nomination, just so they look like they were giving it to somebody who's a bit edgy. It went to Sting and Shaggy, of all people. Sting being...
Sting, he's older than me.
Is he really? So. Do you practice the same form of tantric, what's it called? Anyway, yes, so, and again, completely establishment act. So, and then stop it all off, Drake, who is fairly establishment, but he's one of theirs on the better half of establishment, his speech got cut off halfway through. So, for me, it cemented the fact that
where did all this take place? I mean, I just saw the red carpet pictures, unless I'm getting my awards next time.
California is the US.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, it's an abysmal display of the state of the music industry. However, I mean, we could say the same for some political Grammys, really.
Well, I think the New Centre Party is shaping up like a affair. We've got J.K. Rowling, by acclamation, the interim, at least, leader of the New Centre Party. Yeah. Rachel Riley, who I'd never heard of before, who turns out to be the woman that counts the words on Countdown. Yes. She is has thrown a lot in with the Centre Party. You've got wee Eddie Marsden, who's an actor apparently. Actually, I shouldn't say that because I like Eddie Marsden's acting. I actually do. We actually loved him on Ray Donovan, which we are absolute devotees of. And so when he emerged as a rancid, blatant rat who spits all day at Corbyn, Palestinian supporters, there's no political crime he hasn't committed. As a piece of disillusionment, it's actually almost an art form. He was a guy that you admire, you think he's a terrific actor, and he turns out to be just
his timeline's full of venom.
He's a venom. That's why I call him a rat, and I don't often call people animal names. I really don't. I generally disapprove of it. But a guy who spits all day at people in the most irrational, illogical, rancid, prejudiced way, is behaving like a rat. Let me refine my insult in that point. Anyway, he's on board. So you've got J.K. Rowling. What could possibly go wrong? Harry Potter, anti-Semitism, anyone? Yeah. Harry Potter, a story, a black magic story, built around a group of demons who look like Nazi-era caricatures of Jews. She's made billions out of that.
I hadn't even considered that.
Yeah, now she spends her whole time accusing one person after another. I mean, Jenny Formby, the Labour General Secretary, who's bent over backwards to appease the fake anti-Semitism lobby, the people who see anti-Semitism in every expression of sympathy or support for the Palestinian people. Jenny Formby has bent over backwards, and now they're attacking her. She's now facilitating anti-Semitism because she didn't expel enough people for their liking.
Yeah.
Anyway, this Grammy Award got me thinking we could have a Topple Galloway Award ceremony.
Oh, yes.
There won't be a red carpet. It will be, I don't know, a green carpet or a kind of grass carpet or something. Mud, maybe.
Yeah, which means we walk down and yes, some well-positioned cow hats.
Yeah,
as well.
we could have these awards because it does seem to be the era where so-called celebrities. I mean, Blair surrounded himself with celebrities as adornments, but he didn't really give them speaking parts. You know, nobody put up Noel Gallagher or, sorry, I should say Liam Gallagher.
No.
He shouldn't have put up Liam Gallagher, even though he was handily by his side. He didn't put him up to make the case for the public sector borrowing requirement. But now we've got these celebrities actually in talking parts and really getting stuck in.
Yeah.
So I thought if it's the celebrity hour, we should bring forward our own celebrity.
Yes, I think it's very good. I think yes, we'll have to have a proper award ceremony sometime. But I think you touched on a very important point there, that this kind of culture of celebrity and their dabbling in politics is getting preposterous now. The very fact that, and there's no disrespect really to people like Rachel Riley and Eddie Marson as such, because of course they have the same rights as everyone else to discuss politics. Or go for your lives if you have managed to position yourself in a way that you have a platform now, and feel free to speak your mind. But it's the sort of recognition that's given of these people's views, which Eddie, like you say, most of the stuff is incoherent. It's nonsense.
It is. It's really dubious territory. And yet, as an actor, let's make a distinction between the two. Eddie Marson is an artist, is an actor, and a very fine one. What's Rachel Riley?
But this is the thing, Nicola, hello Nicola, you should be watching, hopefully, hello to Nicola. Nicola said last...
She's not watching, we're in trouble. If our own wives are not watching the show...
Well, one of them doesn't have a choice. That's one, Miss Director, Producer, Tea Lady. No, you're quite right. The thing is with Rachel Riley, as Nicola said last night, if, God forbid, she becomes an MP, she better not ever get her figures wrong, because that would be quite something. But exactly, yes, occasionally Oxford graduate, etc., it doesn't automatically qualify you to be some sort of political mastermind. But this is...
I also don't like the disingenuousness of it all, because we were told that she was just a hapless, beautiful young woman that counts the numbers on a TV show, daytime sofa TV show, and all these left-wing people set upon her because she had a point of view. But it turns out she's actually been in the political game for quite some time, just hiding it.
Yeah, exactly.
She was having meetings with Jacob Rees-Mogg, and she is now in the new Blairite party, that's what the newspapers call it. So she actually was, in a way, deliberately courting controversy to help build up this political lift-off.
Exactly. I mean, it stunk for me when suddenly she started getting involved in the anti-Semitism furore. I was like, there's something up here. Why is she positioning herself and getting involved so deeply with this? But I mean, this whole situation with this new centrist party kind of brings us on to our next topic that you want to talk about, isn't it? Which is a certain book that is also rather timely in its publishing manner, as it were, just as this centrist party forms. This book has been published, so it's a book about Corbyn, isn't it?
It's called Dangerous Hero, which, in terms of own goals, must be one of the biggest in publishing history, because hashtag Dangerous Hero is exactly what Jeremy Corbyn wants to be. He is dangerous to the rich, to the powerful. He is dangerous to the 1%. So, Dangerous Hero is exactly the title he would have wanted. It's like when the Sun tried to raise money to prosecute me under an ancient, centuries-old act called Incitement to Disaffection.
What?
Yes.
What?
The 18th century law, which was a hanging offence, of course, and it pertained to those who were inciting the forces to disaffection with the Crown and with the state and the authority and the power.
And the Sun did...
Yeah, and I said, please chisel that on my gravestone. Here lies George Galloway. He incited them to disaffection. That's my job, incitement to disaffection. And that's Corbyn's job, being a dangerous hero. Now, I have a walk-on part in this book because the author, Tom Bauer, is a very formidable author. Trust me, the last words you ever want to hear are that Tom Bauer's writing a book about him. And I've been a source for him for many years, decades actually, over a whole string of his books, because his enemies were my enemies. Robert Maxwell was the first one, right through Tony Blair, and he was on their case, so was I. He'd come and see me and I'd give him information. So, about a year ago, I get the dread call from Tom Bauer saying, I'm writing a book about Jeremy Corbyn. So I had to impart this news to Mr. Corbyn. And I took their permission, of course, before going to meet Mr. Bauer. I wouldn't have met him if not for the permission of Corbyn and his crew. But they did, because it's sensible. If somebody really hostile is writing a book about you, even though you yourself are not going to participate in it, you do want one or two of your trusted friends to go there, if only to find out what his line of reasoning is. So I met Tom Bauer in the cafe of the Electric Cinema in fashionable Notting Hill, as they say, and spent many hours with him. I think 4 hours or more. It was a lot of coffee. And it quickly became clear to me that either Bauer, who's a no mean intellectual, by the way, and with a long and interesting history, he knows a lot of communists, he knows a lot of communism, he knows about Marxism, and so on, if you get my drift. Yeah. He's not some kind of teenage scribbler, he's an old man, a wise man, so I was all the more astonished when it turned out his thesis was that Jeremy Corbyn isn't just a communist, he's a communist agent. Moreover, he's an agent for a state that is 30 years dead. He was recruited somewhere on the Lonesome Trail down Latin America way as a KGB asset. I'm not making this up. Whether it was in Mexico, could it have been in Cuba, most likely it was in Chile in the early 1970s. And he's been operating for Moscow ever since, even though Moscow, as he means it, is 30 years dead. So I laughed out loud, to be honest, and I wasn't through the first coffee yet, and I had 10 more to come. I laughed out loud at the idea. And of course, I reported back to Corbyn what the line of argument was. And it seems from the extracts, touch wood, maybe there's something coming down the pipe, we never know. But it seems from the excerpts in the Mail on Sunday, 15 pages of a national newspaper on the serialization of a book about a guy they are determined to convince us is a dunce, an unread, illiterate, innumerate, deeply unpopular dunce.
Yeah, because the thrust of what I skimmed was that, and I'm sure everyone's on Twitter has seen this drivel, was that obviously there was issues around him at his grammar school.
He's only got 2 A-levels and they're only E passes, whatever that means.
Exactly.
As someone who was making tyres for Michelin when Jeremy Corbyn was still getting his 2 A-levels, I take this kind of snobbishness as being absurd.
Exactly, I left school at 16, I haven't got any A-levels.
Niall Bevan was working at the coalface down a pit in South Wales and was one of the greatest intellectuals of our era.
Exactly.
What, you've got to go to Oxford, but even if you go to Oxford, like Diane Abbott or Cambridge, if your face doesn't fit, you're rubbished anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not that you get automatic recognition.
Yeah.
So that's because you've got certificates.
No, it doesn't mean jack, does it? I mean, that whole narrative is a nonsense. I mean, there's stuff about how he dared to fund £30,000, which left him in debt to community organising via a local communist party. There was stuff about an incident with Diane Abbott in the field in the Cotswolds, which was rather...
Well, let's not call it an incident. She had her greatest half hour.
Well, yes, that's right.
In a field in the Cotswolds. Jeremy, Superman.
Who needs fracking in Quadrilla when you've got Jeremy Corbyn who can cause earthquakes in the Cotswolds?
That's very well put.
Yeah.
That's the thing. A lot of Bauer's insults are in fact compliments.
Yeah.
You know, Theresa May ran through a wheat field, but as far as I know, the earth didn't move. Diane Abbott lay down in a wheat field with Jeremy Corbyn, and the earth moved, and it was our finest half hour. Jeremy Corbyn doesn't drink alcohol, doesn't go to fancy restaurants, doesn't take his wives to 5-star hotels, but takes them camping instead.
And doesn't clean out the fridge before they move.
Yeah. She told them to clean out the fridge from a house they were moving from. She told them to clean out a garage. He has no car. He cycles everywhere. To clean out a garage that was filled with books. Now, the idea that these things are reasons to hate Jeremy Corbyn shows the parallel universe we're living in.
Yeah.
Corbyn is popular precisely because of all of these things.
Yeah, and you can see where this is going, because I mean, my reading of it was firstly you've got the debt issue, which will paint him as financially irresponsible and financially a dullard, which will therefore consequently mean obviously Labour can't be trusted with the finances. You've got the elements of him not doing what his wife says, cleaning out the fridge, so there's going to be a bit of a misogyny stick that they'll try and use to beat him with there. And then of course there's the whole Russian thing, which is built quite nicely into Gavin, don't tell him Pike, Williamson's latest narrative about how after Brexit...
Can I segue on to that?
Yeah,
I know it's not on the schedule.
Let's go for it. Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous.
This is a very dangerous man, this Private Pike.
Yeah.
And in fact, he's been slapped down first by the First Sea Lord of the Admiralty, salty old dog, and second by Theresa May. As my mate John White put it on Twitter yesterday, never has a UK Defence Secretary begun his day in the land of the giants, only to end it in the land of Lilliput. He broke out in the morning saying he was sending our aircraft carrier, which doesn't have any planes on it, into the disputed waters in the Pacific because Britain has to show its lethality. What a word.
Staggering word.
Britain has to be ready to show its hard power and ready to hit back hard. Hit back hard against whom? Not Ruritania, not Argentina, not the Faroe Islands, but China and Russia.
Yeah.
Now,
staggering.
First of all, as Theresa May pointed out at the end of the day, actually we have very good relations with China, and in the Brexit era, we're hoping that they'll get very much better. And we've got this Private Pike sending an aircraft carrier, which she's countermanded. She says, I'll decide where the aircraft carrier goes, which is quite an interesting slap down. He was a man at all, he'd resign in the face of that humiliation.
Yeah.
But secondly, irrespective of actually wanting to do business with China, China and Russia could wipe out the United Kingdom, not at 45 minutes notice, at 45 seconds notice.
Yeah.
A button in Beijing, a button in Moscow, and there is no United Kingdom.
Yeah.
It's a smoking piece of ash floating in the North Sea.
Yeah.
Who are these people? What is the level of irresponsibility of that?
But this is the point. Who are these people? Because, I mean, even I read the Telegraph's editorial on what he said. And even the Telegraph went in on him, and that's saying something.
Yeah.
But that's
you want to talk about education? He's a fireplace salesman.
Yeah.
In charge of nuclear weapons.
Yeah, and this is the problem. But as I think we've said before on the show, Theresa May is so out of options with who she can appoint to cabinet positions that you're left with dullards and people who encapsulate the notion of over-education and over-promotion beyond their brain power. You're left with people like Gavin Williamson. I mean, and it's absolutely, especially comments about China are absolutely staggering. And it's like he's just completely forgotten everything that's going on behind him in even the cabinet. And this is not me defending Theresa May's cabinet, but it's a statement of fact. He's forgotten the fact that, as you point out, China will be doing trade deals with us. And he's gone back to some sort of Cold War...
This is the guy who said he was going to fire paintballs.
Paintballs at Gibraltar, yes. Arm the Gibraltars, that's the one.
We're going to the Pacific with our aircraft carrier, fully armed.
Yes.
With thousands of paintballs.
Indeed. It's absolutely, I mean, it just...
Are we still live, or can we break?
Can I have some comments, please, Gayatri?
We've got... We've got YouTube over there.
Watch me nuts.
And... Periscope here, okay?
Right, quickly. Who's saying what? Blah, blah, blah. What have we got, George?
From Alaska.
Oh, someone from Alaska.
Alaska, how wonderful.
And SJMUK Blue Bear says, keep shouting, George. I don't always agree with your stance, but applaud your ability to speak truth to power. Both you and Tommy. Both, please. I hope that's not Tommy Robinson.
No, they think
you're
Tommy Topple.
Tommy Topple. How interesting. What have we got? Someone likes the background. Interesting architecture. Converted church, apparently, is it? What else we got? Some people saying, two baldies wearing hats. I'm not bald, actually. Thank you very much. I choose to shave my hair. I can't comment for my compatriot.
I'm not bald.
No, he's not.
I've got marks on my head. I like to cover them up.
So quickly, keep the comments coming in. There's quite a lot of them today, which is good. Keep the comments coming in. If there's anything you want us to touch on story-wise, we have got... How long have we got left, Gayatri?
10 minutes?
10 minutes left. We've got 10 minutes
left. Are we still live?
We are still live, yes. So we have 10 minutes left. George, you also... I mean, I think the thing with both the book and the Centrist Party is this narrative is going to build and build and build, especially with rumours of...
The question is it working? Isn't it? No. Isn't that the question?
But it is, and no, it's not working.
I think yes and no. Although there are more woke people in Britain, indeed the world, today than there have ever been in human history, thanks to the wonders of our freedom, for example, to reach people right now. Yeah. Nobody needs the permission of the BBC or a newspaper baron in order to get our information, to hear our arguments. Yeah. There's a lot of sheeple. There's a lot of sheep.
But this is we split. Society is essentially split now into people who do have information at their fingertips and who are consciously woken to what's going on, and then the other portion of society where people, I think, are somewhat more zombified than.
Well, the fact that the Tories have still got anybody prepared to support them is evidence of that. Yeah. I mean, if ever a government had run out of steam, run out of legs, even if you believe in Toryism, even if you believe in capitalism and their model and so on, you could not dispute that just as John Major had clearly run out of legs in 1997 and a change was needed, even for their sake, even for them, to renew themselves, so clearly Theresa May has run out of steam.
But this is, and again, you touched on something very interesting. This is the bizarre point in everything that's going on in the Conservative Party at the minute. I mean, Conservatives by nature are quite different to Labour in terms that their thinking is very long-termism. They don't. They're always thinking about.
Been in power for centuries.
This is the thing, and quite often that power was also hereditary. MPs often hands over their seats to their sons, or over these days possibly daughters, but their thinking is very long-termism. They don't think in terms of sort of years, they think in terms of decades, the way they want things to pan out. I mean, you see it with things like universal credit. That's been festering in the Tory party since 2005, and there's been a plan which has been sustained despite whoever's in charge. But you'd think someone would give them a tap on the shoulder and go, you know, things are a bit messy at the minute, but there seems to be very little awareness in the Conservative Party just how much of a state.
I think that's the irony, Steve. There would be if Labour was led by a Blairite.
Yeah.
Because then they would know we can safely park the Conservative Party for 5 years, 10 years, whilst they renew themselves, get a new leadership, a better leadership, and everything will be in safe hands. If we let Labour in. There'll be no lurch in Britain's foreign policy. There'll be no significant increase in taxes for the rich. There'll be no significant change to the economy and society. If they could depend on that, then they would have already done it.
Yeah.
It's the fact that Labour is determined to make a significant change, both foreign and domestic. It's the fact that they just don't know where Corbyn, MacDonald, Abbott, and the people around them would take the country. That's why they're so terrified. I mean, I think they really are frightened.
I think you're probably right, because again, if it was any sort of incarnation of Blairism that was in charge of Labour and got in,
Tweedledee, Tweedledum.
But it is essentially, they know that any policies, because I mean, let's face it, the political system in this country is a seesaw, as it always has been. You have 10 years of Tories, 10 years of Labour, 15 years of Tories, whatever. And if it was a Blairite, then of course the sort of momentum with the creeping dystopia and those kind of policies would continue, if not slightly slower, under a Blair government. But with Corbyn, they don't know how much, because again, this is the thing with Corbyn. I think there's a lot of stuff which Corbyn isn't saying he'd do, but secretly behind the scenes,
would love to do, yeah.
And there, like you say, there's that uncertainty with, okay, so how far in a direction the Tories don't want to go in would Corbyn take it? And I think you're right, there is a fear there that it could do to the Conservative plan irreconcilable damage to their long-term agenda. But
I actually think that they're over worrying. If they paid me to come and give the ruling class a seminar, I'd say, look, Jeremy Corbyn is not a Marxist, he's not a Leninist, he's not a Trotskyist, he's not a Bolshevik, he's not going to nationalise the economy, he's not going to withdraw from NATO. He will make some changes at the edges on both foreign and domestic policies. Yeah. You are worrying yourselves into an early grave unnecessarily. Yeah. He's not Lenin, he's Michael Foot. He's a less well-read Michael Foot.
Yeah.
Now, there's only time left for me to raise an issue that's important.
How many minutes?
There's a new congresswoman, Ilhan Omar, hijab-wearing, refugee from one of the industrial states, I think Michigan, who spoke a truth so blindingly obvious. It is astounding the reaction it has produced. And could only have done so on the basis of militarized mendacity. They cannot really mean what they're saying. Ilhan Omar, Democratic congresswoman, pointed out that the Israel lobby, by putting hundreds of millions of dollars into the American political system, hundreds of millions, has done so in order to bring about pro-Israel policies in America. Now,
shocking.
If ever a statement, I've never heard a statement more obvious than that. I mean, is the Pope a Catholic? Do bears defecate in the woods? Comes nowhere near a statement as obvious as that. The entire American political establishment has crashed down on her. She's being described as an anti-Semite for pointing this out. So there's an oil lobby that lobbies politicians in the interests of oil. There's a Saudi lobby which lobbies politicians in the interests of Saudi Arabia. But if you describe Israel lobbying as Israel lobbying, you are somehow a Nazi. marching people to the
But what's
gas
AIPAC
chamber.
then?
What is AIPAC except the American-Israel Public Affairs Committee, which exists to keep American money flowing to Israel, keep American arms guaranteeing the security of Israel. That is actually just ABC.
Yeah.
Now, the Democrats are now pursuing her, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, in exactly the way they have pursued the likes of Chris Williamson and a very few other Labour MPs. They're trying to get this young woman, just elected weeks ago, drummed out of Congress, drummed out of the Democratic Party. Yeah. Oh dear.
Sorry state of affairs.
It is. But it's been a good show, even though actually it's now 12:30 and we're only paid. We're only paid for half an hour.
Exactly. Quick look at the Patreon comments. What have we got?
Did you see the Periscope?
The what?
Is it on Periscope?
Is it on Periscope as well?
I've lost track of the number of platforms we're going on here. That's the Lords, not MPs.
Yes, some we didn't touch on. The government finally admitted their welfare policies have contributed to food bank use. That's Amber Rudd coming out saying, oh yes, sorry, universal credit is causing people going to food banks, even though she said several weeks ago that, oh, there's only one or two stories of horror stories on you. There's only one or two people. No, it's causing people to go to food banks.
Food banks.
Stuff about Trident. Labour will take the country to a better place, George, yes. Oh, how about happy birthday, Dennis Skinner, of course, yes.
Happy 87th birthday
yes,
to the longest serving Labour MP in history.
Yes, we salute
1970 to 2019, still going strong.
Don't know how he's done it.
10 more years, Dennis.
Oh, bloody hell. Tories and Blairite coalition on the cards. Yes, I think that's true, with the Lib Dems thrown in for good measure. Blah, blah, blah. And I'd hate to argue with George, he's just too quick for me, says Daniel, yes. Thank you, Daniel. Yeah, he is very quick, but
I'm not as quick as Topple because he has the benefit of youth. And that's the blend we've got here. Exactly. Youth and experience. We're both worth seeing and listening to. So tell people about the Topple Galloway show. Follow us at Mr. Topple on Twitter, at George Galloway on Twitter. I'm on multiple platforms now.
I'm on Instagram as well.
Luckily, I have a young and very clever wife who's got me on everything from YouTube to Instagram and Snapchat and all of this.
And also, tell us in the comments who you'd nominate for political Grammys. My money is for Gavin, don't tell him, Pike Williamson, for best...
Don't tell him your name, Pike!
For best performance in the costume drama, even though he didn't have his scarf, Uncle Arthur.
Brilliant. Thank you.